Super Mind Stretches. That's got a charm to it.
You beauty. Oh, thank you for the tea, Tom.
Oh, you're most welcome, Brendan. What flavour you got there?
This was the honey bush orange and mandarin. And I tell you what, the mandarin is the secret sauce,
Yeah.
I think. It really just on the back end there, just a nice sweet dryness.
It's the citrus you're not expecting.
Always.
That's the one that'll get you.
Is that a good sound to have on a podcast? I don't know.
I think so.
You know what is a good sound to have on a podcast? The sultry sounds of your brother Ben,
Yes, which
we sadly
I'm missing
we are
today.
amiss. But what he was in Sydney, was he not?
Correct.
Is he still?
Hopefully he's on his way back. It was planned that he was going to be on this episode, but
Yes, but,
unfortunately he was somewhat delayed.
Delayed. But, you know, the schedule, the Supermind Stretches schedule waits for no man.
So we soldier on.
So we soldier on. But now I feel like we've naturally come to the intro, which we haven't come to so quickly in other episodes, but there are no rules.
Because Ben's not here.
Because Ben's not here, so so it's the Wild West. But this is Supermind Stretches, little podcast that Ben, me, Brendan Williams,
And me, Tom Crisp.
have started to, little review and take a little trip down memory lane on the old Curiosity Show.
Exactly, from the 70s, 80s, and 1990.
For people who have been listening, know that I just loved this show when I was a kid. It was huge for me and my older brother Ryan. We just were fascinated by everything they had to say about science and magic and curios and little mind teasers and all sorts of stuff. But I was a kid when it was right at the tail end of the run of the show. So I remember watching it in like 89, 90.
Right.
And then beyond that, they might have aired it might have done repeats.
Well, I was going to say, so does that mean do you remember any of the older episodes being repeated, or was it just the new ones for you?
I just assumed that, I don't know if I thought about it at the time. I do have a distinct memory of the, because they, over the tenure of the show, went through different opening sequences.
Right.
And I think I remember the opening title sequence that was around when I was a kid. And I think it was one where you were kind of looking down, like the perspective, like that you were looking like through a tunnel of images that were coming up. I remember that one.
I'm pretty sure every clip you've reacted to the sting at least.
Yes.
With a sense of familiarity.
Yeah.
Which
yes.
is heartening. We've seen ones from all across the ages so far.
Yeah. But we sans Ben, sadly. Hey Ben.
Hey Ben.
But and often we'll record around at Ben's, but we're at your place tonight, Tom. But I must say,
Yes.
wherever we are, the quality and variety of cups of tea do not leave me
Remains
wanting.
Unchanged.
Unchanged.
we retain that level of...
What else has been going on?
Just had a lovely weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. Nothing much to really talk about. You and I went and saw a movie.
We did.
We went...
Not to date the podcast, but
well, we saw it out of date anyway.
We saw it out of date, yeah. It's been in the cinemas for quite a while, the old Mission Impossible 8th installment.
Yes, The Final Reckoning.
The Final Reckoning.
Which we'd been on a bit of a journey, actually,
you got to do your homework, I think.
Which then, in the first few minutes of the film, you learn you didn't have to do your homework.
No, because they did the old Superman 2 trick, but not as overtly as Superman 2. The first 10 minutes of Superman 2 is just the theme, which I don't have a problem with because of all the John Williams iconic trilogy themes. It's actually my favorite. I have a theory. Right? So the big groundbreaking John Williams scored trilogies from at least when I was younger and before I was born would be, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Superman.
Yeah.
They're the big three. I mean, some of them they all went on to have other ones, but the trilogy's the
canonical
important thing.
Yeah.
But in order of preference for me, this is just me. Indiana Jones takes the top spot.
Sure.
Then Star Wars.
Yep.
And then Superman.
Okay.
Like Superman, iconic character, but the actual movies, while I enjoy them, your Star Wars and especially Indiana Jones can't be touched, in my opinion. But I reckon my preference for the themes actually go the other way around.
Right.
Yeah, I reckon Superman, then Star Wars, and look, Indiana Jones, great theme, makes me think of Indiana Jones, which is, a plus. But
can you do a bit of the Superman one? I don't know if I actually. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's got power.
And it creeps in during scenes where like Clark Kent is just like really thinking about something, or like he's about to. It's dun, 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 dun. I love a good theme that can be hinted at slowly.
Absolutely.
Like you and I are big Zelda fans.
Yes.
And in Tears of the Kingdom, toward the end, when no spoilers, when he like repairs the Master Sword or something, and he's just about to make the final blow or something, and it just really, really slowly, everything's going on around it in the depths, and it's really powerfully and slowly, like goes ba 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 ba, and oh man, it gets me every time.
The musical use of theme, is beautiful. And I mean, Mission Impossible, another
there you
one
go.
that is classic for that.
I heard a interesting theory about that.
Oh yeah,
the old Mission Impossible theme. We might have spoken about this, but Lalo Schifrin wrote that score, and that was from the original series.
Right.
But I think I heard that I don't know whether this is true or not, but this is the podcast for things that we hope are true.
Check.
That the dun dun da da is MI in Morse code.
I just learned that today.
Yeah,
literally.
right. Oh, there you go. Is it true?
I haven't checked it either because I just learned it today. It was on my list of things to look up.
Like dot dash dash dot dot dash dash. Yeah, M. Yeah.
So when people say, "Can you sing the tune?" That's what we should be doing.
Yeah. So I hope that's right. What's that? Just a whole lot of E's. I am.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's very tempting to say.
It's very M, but it's
one M.
Yeah.
Well, and watching Mission Impossible, I was going to say especially this one, but basically all of them, it does make me wish that a show like Mythbusters was still around, where they used to do those themed episodes, pick something like an Indiana Jones or a Star Wars and say, like pick out stunts or ideas, or is that real? Like, could it be plausible, that idea, if you just maybe suspend your disbelief in the sci-fi versions. But some of the crazy stuff that Tom Cruise does, good lord.
Oh man, he's
good
the man.
God, Tom.
And he did them as well.
Right. That's true. He's actually done the myth busting.
There was a little like cult Adelaide comedy known as Danger 5 that you, Tom, and Ben and I, we were all sort of extras on.
That's right.
And were you there for season 2 when Grant Page did the stunt coordination sort of like safety briefing?
I was not on season 2.
Not on season 2. Well, after season 1, I think they knew they wanted to get extras back for season 2, but I think the responsibilities around employing them were sort of different from the first season. I don't know how it worked.
It was a wild ride for us in that first season.
Yeah, it was. But they ended up employing I think they went a little bit bigger with the stunts, and they got Grant Page, who was the stunt coordinator for the Mad Max films,
right?
Who was like, by the time we met him on that season 2 set for Danger 5, this is going back about 10, 15 years now. He would have been well into his 70s, I would think, at that time. We've lost him, sadly. He's no longer with us, but he was an absolute character. He's just like incredible stuntman, would do anything. He's the guy in, I think it's in Road Warrior, the second Mad Max, I think, where he drives a car off a cliff, and that's Grant Page literally doing it, and he had a broken leg at the time, and they painted onto his cast. They painted the jeans onto his his cast, so it would show up on camera as him wearing just jeans. But he was like, I think most of those parts of it, I might be getting my stories mixed up, but that definitely happened.
So he broke his leg before the
I'm
stunt.
pretty sure doing something else like cool. But he said, now why did I start talking about Grant Page?
Oh, stunts.
There was something stunts. Yes,
Yeah.
he always were talking about the wow, like how you watch all these new modern movies with like CGI and all that, and he said, yeah, that's got the wow factor. Like all the Transformers movies, like they looked amazing for the time they were brought out, and they still like some of the like the metallic machinery CGI in the Transformers movies really still holds up. I haven't really ever seen a Transformers movie from start to finish, but I've seen those scenes and they just look amazing.
Right.
When a turbine turns into a thing, like it looks particularly good. And he said, yeah, it's got the wow factor, but I'm looking for the factor, like the gut factor, that feeling, the feeling you get in your gut. He was always about, yeah, wow factor's all right, but factor when you're watching it, knowing that somebody did that, and that's real. There's still a big place for that, and I think Tom Cruise understands that. And so the motorcycle off the cliff, the wing walking on those biplanes, like that's Tom Cruise doing that. And I saw him in an interview. Somebody asked him if he had a parachute when he was doing the wing walking, and he, like in Tom Cruise fashion, he like smiled and laughed. He goes, "No, it would have been too dangerous to have a parachute." Like he delighted in teaching this person that no, I didn't have a parachute because that would have been too dangerous. And it's like he's just the last of the true movie stars.
The crazy practicalities of all that, because I went on a real bent watching all the behind the scenes, because you just have to know how he did it, or what it took to do it. I suppose was the other thing.
It took Tom Cruise to do it.
Exactly,
that's what it took.
The single-mindedness of Ethan Hunt in the films is the same single-mindedness that the Tom Cruise of the real world has in making these.
Yes, I like that parallel.
Training himself and for everything from holding the celebrity holding your breath underwater record, which was something like 7 minutes ish.
Yeah,
it's like that's insane. So he's got to train his body to be able to do that, and then
the Rogue Nation, was it Rogue Nation? The helicopter stunt in there. He did like something like 2,000 hours of helicopter flying before that movie was made, so that he would have the accreditation to be able to do this stunt that even the most serious helicopter stunt people like regard as just the real deal.
And I've got to say, as we mentioned on this podcast a few episodes back, I did have the pleasure of being able to fly in one of those bi-wing World War II era planes.
How good.
And we watched this latest Mission Impossible where Tom Cruise is he's inside the cockpit of one of them, then he's outside on the wing, and jumping between two different ones.
And doesn't he get into the front and that doesn't have the controls that he needs in the back or something? Is that
he looks down and all the controls like blacked out or whatever. And I just thought like, that's kind of what it was like for me, except obviously I didn't get out. But that factor that you're talking about, I think I had a higher appreciation in that moment, and everything that it looked like on his face and the way his body was reacting definitely told me it was real. Because being up in those planes, they're not going super fast by plane standards.
Mm-hmm.
They're very lightweight. But when you're in the cockpit, you're not feeling a whole lot of wind on you. You're sort of protected from that. But as soon as you stick your hand out the side, or if you were to try and stand all the way up or out, or especially if you were out on the wing, the force of that is just instant. And so I saw in some behind the scenes that Tom Cruise, there was a certain number of minutes he could be out on the wing, right? Because he was just out there doing. It's not necessarily take after take; it's just getting a whole lot of different footage of different choreographed moves and things. And I think apparently the director Christopher McQuarrie was in a helicopter or nearby, but there was no other crew around. Yeah, and so they just and they didn't have earpieces or anything in because it's just too loud. So it was all hand signals. And Tom Cruise had certain signals, so he'd have one where he sort of like put his fingers to his mouth, and I think that one meant that he's just taking a rest because the impact of all the air is such that he would just kind of run out of breath, but there's not enough time to get back. So he just sort of have a little rest where he was on the wing, wait, and he sort of, I remember in the interview, sort of shows he leans his head as if he's showing that he's leaning his head away from the wind, so his mouth is facing away from the wind. And so you can just take little breaths in like a little pocket of air that's sort of like in front of your face because there's actually not enough oxygenated air coming into your mouth from the front. So all this sort of stuff is just wild. The best bit of that was there's a scene where he's in the cockpit and you and I just off mic, we're just talking about wanting to maybe go see it again together. This is one of the things I want to look out for when we see it.
Let's do it.
Is there's a bit where the camera is from the front of the plane looking back, Tom's in the cockpit and you can see the background behind him. And I'm not sure of the what's happening story-wise in this moment, but there's a pull of focus to something, to a piece on the plane, I think, that's maybe like jiggling around or something like that, and then back to Tom.
Yes.
And there's this beautiful scenery in the background, clouds and sun and whatnot. And apparently, because there's no crew to do that or to know exactly when to do, focus pull, whatever, Tom is in the cockpit and he's controlling the focus as well as acting. So he is the crew and the.
Does he get a cameraman credit, a camera operator credit?
We'll have to look out for that.
We'll have to look out for that. That's great. Holy moly! That was funny because what was it? The additional diving.
Oh yeah.
There was we noticed when we were watching the credits. There's like additional divers. Tom Cruise was listed in there. We're like, he's not an additional diver. He's the diver. He's the guy. He's the primary diver. Oh man, no, that was I had a good fun. I had good fun watching that.
It was a wild ride.
It was a wild ride, and I do, going back to the theme, I do love that Mission Impossible theme, and I love all the different iterations it's had over the years. I'm trying to think of what I think I love it. I love the first Mission Impossible movie one. I can't imagine what I don't know if I know the original series very well.
I've never seen it.
And then Limp Bizkit did it for number 2.
Really? Oh, really?
Yeah, that was Limp Bizkit. And then number 3, they returned to a more number 1 one. I think number 3 might actually be my favorite because then in number 4, it changed a little bit again. But yeah, I have all my opinions on all the films. And I should really not exit this theme discussion without the second movement. It's the second movement of the Superman thing. It's like ba 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 ba. And then it's like ba da 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 ba da 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 da, and it's like ba 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 ba. It's I just like that, and the opening credits of that just goes for so long. Because it's an old movie where all the credits are like up the front pretty much, and it just going through space, and I just get so excited watching that. But then that's why I started talking about Superman 2, because it just kind of plays that theme for like a good 10 minutes while it just recaps heaps of stuff from the first one. So it's much more sort of like what's the word? I can't think of the word, but it's much more extreme in Superman 2 than it is in Mission Impossible, the latest installment. But yeah, but it is a big old recap. I can remember watching it when I was older, just going, "Wow, they really, just catch you up on this one." Yeah.
Look, Brendan, should we jump into a clip?
Yes.
I've been dying to see some Curiosity shows this week.
Let's do it. So, I do. I love that you're enjoying, because it's very important to me, but I'm worried that I did a little bit of me was like, is it just important to me in my childhood? But the fact that watching it with you, Tom, especially because you hadn't really seen any, I'm digging watching you watch it, actually. I'm glad that you're appreciating it.
I mean, you said earlier about how you remember it, vividly, and it was so important to your childhood. I'd say that a lot of those all the themes are very familiar to me as a kid. Like the sort of experimentation and books that had little science experiments or magic tricks or things like that. Yeah, all totally down my alley. But I guess I didn't have maybe just a show like this
Yeah.
to sort of channel that. So yeah, all of this it's got the loveliest feeling of feeling familiar
Yes.
without having ever seen it.
I'm delighted to hear it.
And I like to think that, all listeners out there, if you have never seen any of these, definitely do recommend you go to the Curiosity Show YouTube channel and follow along, either the clips that we're watching or watch whichever ones you want. But they give me a good feeling.
Yeah,
to watch
yeah.
them.
I always get wholesome vibes from those two.
Yeah.
And they're just like obviously passionate about education, and it's I don't know. I can't sing their praises highly enough.
And
often enough.
I get to play the role of our listener as well as a listener that may not have seen it before through fresh eyes.
Now, yes, you were having a look at. Had you made any decisions on sort of you having to be the Ben character of electing what?
I know this is normally Ben's purview is to find, and it's funny because I'm seeing some as I look down the grid of videos that I'm thinking, I think Ben will be upset if we watch this one without him. It looks
trying
too
to
good.
pick one that would be suitable to do without Ben is hard because.
Oh look, okay. How about this one? I found one called Jumping Paperclips.
Jumping Paperclips.
So let's see.
Let's do it.
Let's see if I've even got the technology down to
play the old
play this
jumping. Oh,
play it up here.
Yeah, that looks good.
Right,
that's what Ben would do.
There's also a new laptop for me, so let's see if this works.
With the Volkswagen Amarok Star Racing.
Haven't installed my ad blocker, obviously.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Rookie mistake there.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Hey, the old not sponsored. So no free
Pretend
advertising.
You didn't hear that.
Now, here's a little problem for you concerning a $5 note and 2 paper clips.
Is it
now,
the
here's
old
what you
five?
have to do. First of
We're
all,
outside in
fold
Adelaide.
the note into thirds, into
I
an
reckon
S
that's a
shape
new
like
five.
that, and then flatten it out. Now, take one of the paper clips and put it between the centre section of the note and the bottom. There we are. The second paper
Okay,
clip
he's kind of
goes
folded
between
it
the
in an
second
S.
section and the top section in that position there. Now we have 2 paper clips attached to the note, and you can see the paper clips are quite separate. Now, if I pull the ends of the note, what do you think will happen? I'll give you 3 choices. Will the paper clips stay on the $5 note? Will they come off? Or, thirdly, will they leap into the air, link together, and fall on the table?
Oh, that's a
Whoa.
You might
tempting
say that
option.
third choice is absolutely ridiculous, but watch this. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
What
Look at
the
that. They leapt
heck?
into the
And that's
air
exactly
and
what
joined
happened.
Together. What's going on here?
What is going
Well,
on,
it's all to do
Deane?
with topology.
Okay, let's just pause there for a second.
Okay.
There's a lot to unpack.
I
here.
am aghast. So, a lot to unpack. He is in front of Adelaide Oval there, I reckon.
Yeah, up on a little hill.
Up on the
maybe
hill
behind.
there. Now, this must be latter day because he's got a polymer $5 note,
Right, yes. you
which
pointed that
didn't
out
come
straight
into
away.
circulation until I thought
The
that it
dollars
was,
and pence and cents and... No, I can't remember what that was. Laughed at that.
yeah. In come the dollars, in come the cents to replace the pounds and the shillings and the pence.
Oh, wait, you did know it.
Be prepared, folks, when the coins begin to mix on the 14th of February, 1966.
No way.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
now I don't know what I'm more flabbergasted at. That was amazing.
So that's decimal currency. But
All the
they
notes.
had the paper 5
Okay.
up until if this is because they were bringing out the show in 1990.
Yep.
I didn't think it was until early 90s that they changed to polymer money, but it might have been. I know they did it in stages. Like the 5 went first.
Okay.
And then they later replaced the 10. And Australia, first country in the world to have polymer money.
Oh, right. We were leading the charge on that
Yeah,
one.
we were. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Because I know Canada's got...
Canada's got polymer money. New Zealand do.
Yeah.
But yes, I think some... I'm
the
not
benefits
sure.
of that easier to launder? Literally, as in...
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Yes,
get it wet.
It's easier, literally easier to launder. But yeah, no. And
Okay, well, on that note then, do you think we can date it? Because
on
this,
that note, sorry, go on.
Nice one. This is one of the first clips I think we've seen outdoors with Adelaide specific landmarks.
Yes.
But I've just spotted in this freeze frame, there's some cars parked down,
hello.
sort of closer to Adelaide Oval, and I'm just wondering whether we can sort of
gauge
the era exactly, because we've got a bit of a yellow.
It looks like it could be. That could even be a Gemini down there.
Yeah,
I had one of those.
Yeah,
or it could be like an Escort or a Corolla. an older model, early model Corolla. I don't know.
Well, I know next to nothing about cars, so it'd be
Me
leaning on
too.
you, so I don't know why I shouldn't have brought this up.
Those are all the cars I know.
Okay, well, instead, how about we go by Deane's look here? 'Cause
Yes, he definitely looks like a more distinguished, seasoned gentleman.
This looks like latter day.
Yeah, looks a little older than some of the hip sort of kind of tight shirt exposing the old physique.
We're seeing some maybe thinnerish hair,
Mhm.
not so voluminous. Glasses of a of a sort
that's
of an
right.
80s 90s ilk.
Yeah,
And the shirt, sort of a shirt you could expect to wear now, although it's maybe a little baggier than you expect.
and is that a lavalier microphone he's got on his
good
lapel
spot.
there?
Yeah.
That would have been technology that maybe not to say that they wouldn't have had it in the earlier days, but in terms of it looks quite compact and small,
it does.
if that's what it is. And they certainly would have been larger and too expensive for a Channel 9 Adelaide show back in the day. I don't know. This is just me. Maybe I'm casting aspersions on Channel 9 that I shouldn't be, but
Look, while we're at it, I'm actually just going to look up Polymer Money Australia.
Polymer Money Australia, yeah. And when they
in 1988, Australia was the
88.
first country. So I'm not sure about the 5 specifically, but you did say that was one of the earliest ones, right?
Okay, so maybe I don't remember the 5 coming through, but I do remember Ernie Dingo was on an ad talking about the talking about the $50 note.
Okay.
And I reckon I remember that being somewhere in the early 90s. It'd be interesting to know when they... This
is interesting, yeah. I think maybe I'm just doing very quick skimming, but introduced 1988, but maybe didn't make the full switch till 1992.
Right.
Begins the actual transition. So, 1988, Australia introduced the $10 note. This was the world's first true polymer banknote.
Oh, the 10 was first.
Yeah, so we might be talking right at the cusp of the end of the show there.
Righto, yeah.
It definitely looks like it, just in vibe of the colors and the quality of the camera and whatnot. Interesting. Okay, well, back to the actual
because
matter at hand.
These were all just primary wows, but the real big one was because he'd kind of like, what's the best way to describe how he folded it over? He kind of...
What else might you fold like that? A brochure?
Yeah, yes. It was sort of like not a fold into the middle brochure, but like one of those S-bend brochures.
Right.
And he'd kind of done that and put... And so when you look at it from the top, it looks like an elongated S.
Sure.
And he'd placed one paper clip over the first 2 folds, the top fold and the middle fold, and then the next one over the middle fold and the bottom fold, sort of next to each other. And then he pulled the sides of the note out to flatten it out again. And he did it fast enough that these 2 paper clips, because his question was whether it would fly off one way, fly off the other, stay on, or whether they link together and fall and fly off the note. And they did the latter.
Right.
And I'm still agog.
If he hadn't put that option forward, I would never have guessed that's what I was going to. So it's a good thing he put that forward.
Yeah.
I like how he said...
you might think
that's ridiculous, whereas I just said, well, that'd be amazing. I think it must be that one. From the placement of the paper clips, I definitely did not foresee that happening, but there is a bit more to the video. So
and I have a suspicion now that before we play that, that maybe there's something in the orientation of the paper clips.
Right.
Because I wonder if there's a way you can put them on where this wouldn't work.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay. So the same S shape.
Yes.
But you could put them on in such a way.
But that's just a theory, a working theory I have.
Okay.
Let's see if it's
good
dispelled.
hypothesis. Well, I like, again, that Deane says, what do you think will happen? And it's like, that's one of the most fun parts, I feel like, of being a kid is being presented with a problem. And what do you think's going to happen?
And just associating, and that's the scientific method. You create a testable hypothesis and just making that, like, instilling fun at that idea of that thing is just so cool and important.
And you know what I love, Brendan? It's so ingrained in you that your thought just now was you wonder if there is a way you could put them on where that doesn't happen. So you're already trying to disprove. It wasn't about being right or wrong. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, now that we've seen what it is, what variables can you change to see if you can change the outcome and then therefore better understand.
Well, I appreciate that.
So let's continue.
Let's.
the science of surfaces. Maybe I can explain it a little better if I
topology.
do it on a larger
Topology,
scale.
the science.
We'll pretend that this large sheet of paper represents the $5 note. Now, when we give it that S-shaped fold and flatten it out, it looks a little like that. Now, the first paperclip, and I'm using giant ones this time.
Oh, good on you, Deane. They are huge.
Between the centerpiece and the bottom section of that folded piece of paper. The second paperclip goes between the center section and the top section of the folded paper. Now, that paperclip there is entirely on that surface of the paper. The other one is entirely on the other surface of the paper. So the paper clips are on opposite sides. When I pull the edges of the paper like this, the two paper clips are forced to approach one another. Now, they can't go through the paper. So what happens is they're forced to actually overlap and then to jump off the end of the note. And when they do that, they are joined every time. Try it on your friends.
Yes. That's great. I am going to... Oh, man. I wonder if I've got a banknote somewhere. Because they're so I so infrequently use physical money nowadays. Yeah. But I'll find one at the post office and I'll got to take it home and get some paper clips and show Nora that. That is rad.
That the impact of the effect is so disproportionately good compared to the components that you start with and the setup.
I wonder where they found all this stuff. Like, episode after episode, year after year, honestly, there's just so much breadth of fun little tricks and things. They must have just
mucked around.
And there was no internet back then.
Right.
And so they just found this stuff.
Yeah, where are you getting your ideas? Because they mentioned topology, but I can't imagine that from a mathematical point of view that necessarily paper clips on a piece of paper would have been a natural emergent sort of example from just theoretical topology.
I can remember there was another show that came later than this, and it was the Y show or something, or Y.
Yep.
And it had a fella, I can't remember his name, but he was quite good, and he was the presenter of that. And he was actually, he played the leader of the students. I can't pronounce the name of the character from Les Miserables.
Oh, sure.
But I need to work on my pronunciation. But he was the student leader. He played him in the production of Les Mis that I saw at Her Majesty's many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
This was
so I've seen that with you.
So you can correlate those those factoids and find this man's name, which escapes me at the moment. But he was talking about that was when I was introduced to topology, because I don't remember this. I reckon this one escaped me as a kid. That was the first time I'm seeing that clip from the Curiosity Show. Thank you, Deane.
Which is interesting, because if you were more likely maybe to see the later episodes live.
Yes, that is true. Yeah. That is interesting.
Those were giant paper clips.
They were very big.
You have to make them yourself, surely. You don't just buy them from the post office. Well, you work at a post office, can you?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
News agent.
I don't have much stock, though. It's more of a community postal agency, really.
Yeah.
But I must admit, that my introduction, though not that, was something that stuck with me in the show called Y. He had a shirt on and then a vest. No, he had I think he had a vest and a jacket, and he took the vest off without taking off the jacket.
Oh, interesting.
And he said, because it's like topology about the relationships between surfaces, and they were... they're not actually, you think that one is bound by the other.
Yeah.
But he pulled the vest through the sleeve and put his arm over it with one, and then he pulled it out the other sleeve.
Yeah.
So it's possible to do if you can widen or if you can stretch the armhole in the vest wide enough to get one side of that loop down your sleeve, over your hand, back up that sleeve.
Right.
And then you've completely freed it from that arm. And then all it is hanging off your other arm, and you just stick it through the sleeve on the other arm.
Right.
And that was, I'm like, oh, wow, topology. And then talking about how a coffee cup is the topological equivalent of a donut or something, because there's not really, there's only one hole in it. And a hole is the only thing that kind of retains its quality topologically. because a donut has a hole, but the actual cup is really just a impression. It's really just a dimple.
Right.
And topology is great.
It is. And I feel like there's some great ways with things like a mug or different just like shapes you could hold in your hand.
Yeah.
Where you can prove some of these things by drawing lines or an inability to draw a certain quality of line.
Yeah.
Can show how two different shapes are the same topologically.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though they look very, very different to our eye.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked before about not a natural successor, but I feel like these days you see these very short form sort of TikTok style videos of this might be slightly different, but like knot theory sort of things as well.
Yes.
Like people getting out of showing if it looked like you were handcuffed around some other sort of type of shape and how you could get your hand through or whatever, those sorts of things.
I would love to have more of an intuitive understanding of like knots, and because it would make me better at those puzzles.
In waiting rooms.
Yeah, exactly. Like getting something around something and how topologically you would do that. Like there must be a method, but often with like little puzzles where you got to get the horseshoe off the chain or something, I often just like manhandle them until just brute force.
Use those really like the corners of things.
Yeah. There's always like lots of twisting and folding and like removing them in a twisting action that you wouldn't always think about.
Well, the bigger sized paper clips in this clip, and the bigger paper and I think the fact that he moved slower on the second go around, I think it helped me to see better what was going on. Also, the fact when he described the two different paper clips as wholly being on different sides of the paper, which I'm not sure if I fully got from looking even that second time, but to try and understand that as the initial piece of paper before you fold it has two sides.
Yes, and
so when you fold it into the S shape, you can still it would maybe be more clear if the paper had two different colored sides, and then as you one side yellow, one side blue, and then as you fold it, you would see what space the two different paper clips are sort of inhabiting.
Oh yeah, I actually didn't follow what he meant by wholly on that side of the paper, but now I sort of. Yeah, I get it because it's
folded it over the crease so it can be on the yellow side and yellow side, and not be squeezing, not be pressing up against the blue side.
It does give the illusion, the way he's done it, which all like magic and card tricks do. It gives the illusion that you have got one side of the paper clip on one side of the paper and another side of the paper clip on the other side of the paper, but it doesn't. It's because it's folded.
Right,
you've got both sides of the paperclip shared over one side of the surface of the paper. Right, I see now. Yeah.
I feel like there's something topological about, being able to draw lines through a certain number of folds.
Yeah.
That sort of idea, like even an odd number of folds, I feel like comes up.
Yeah.
Because then as he much more slowly pulls the edges of the paper apart, you can see very clearly that both paper clips are sort of just edging their way towards the middle of what would be a fully outstretched piece of paper.
Yep.
And it still kind of happens quite fast. I think I have to watch it again, but you sort of see how you're like, oh yeah, they're just going to keep meeting, and they kind of fold over each other. And I think that spring tension of touching each other then links them together and knocks them off.
I know I've got banknotes and paper clips at the post office. And so I've got work to do tomorrow. But I don't know if I'll be doing much of it very quickly.
Not when there's topology.
Not when there's topology games to play. What was the other good topological factoid oh yes, a donut. Of course, the mathematical shape for that is a torus.
Sure.
Like a cylinder that bends around and meets with itself.
Yep.
And there's all sorts of great topological things about toruses or toruses.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Is it a Greek or a Latin root?
Oh, yeah, good question.
But multiple, more than one torus. But like Pac-Man. The game Pac-Man is the actual field on which Pac-Man lives can be represented by a torus, Because
Really?
because if he goes off the top of the screen,
Yeah.
he comes back on the bottom of the screen. He
Okay.
goes off the side of the screen, he comes back on the other side. So it's an unfolded torus.
Right.
So if you stretch the sides of the Pac-Man screen all the way around, and loop them kind of back on themselves, you can imagine that's an endless loop.
Yeah.
But the only shape, the most simple or most common shape, maybe the only shape that facilitates an endless loop on the X direction and an endless loop on the Y direction is a torus.
Right.
Because you imagine there's two circles.
Yeah.
like the X direction will loop around on itself, and then going up, you're kind of going up, over, down through the loop,
Sure.
and then up and back again. If you've put the donut like horizontally.
I'm sure someone has done this, but I wonder if someone
Put
has
a donut
made
horizontally.
I'm
always
going to
do.
be hungry. Actually, I might just go check the.
I eat my donuts like up and down.
Yeah, I actually pull them out from the
Yeah.
side so they become 2D, just so I can understand my donut better before I eat it. No, I was wondering if Game Maker has made a 3D Pac-Man with the same field, but where it has been folded back over.
Yeah,
and
right.
you play maybe like first-person view, so you can get a sense of that space. That'd be really interesting.
There's a great mug that you can get from I think it's from this is a plug for my two favorite YouTubers, Matt Parker and Steve Mould. They co-run mathsgear.co.uk, and you can buy a whole bunch of cool maths gear. I think they sell this mug on that because it was a mug from Numberphile, I think, or from Stand Up Maths. But there's that classic house puzzle where you've got the three houses,
right?
And then you've got the three utilities like power, water, and what would it be?
Gas.
Gas, water, and electricity or something, and three logos. And you have to draw a line, so connect the gas and the thing, and the water thing to each house. And each house have got, so you imagine like they're set out like the number 6 on a dice. Like 3 up the top, 3 down the bottom.
Okay,
and you've got the utilities and you have to draw a line. You have to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines that connect each house to each utility, but they're not allowed to cross. And
the lines can't cross.
The lines can't cross.
Okay.
And this is actually without giving. If you want to try it yourself, and if you want to get that mug with the drawing on it, with the puzzle on it, without me spoiling it for you, then pause now and go and buy it. Wait for it to arrive, and then you can take off in it. But I'm just about to spoil it. Is that okay if I spoil it for you, Tom?
Of course, I do. I love this one.
The trick is that's actually impossible. It's impossible to do on a sheet of paper. The connect them, because
which you'll find as you try and start to do it.
As you try and start to do it, at least one line always has to cross. Yeah. You actually can't connect 3 lines that go from each to each. But you can on a torus.
Right.
Because
they don't have to be straight lines.
They don't have to be straight lines.
Squiggly.
Yes. No, they can be squiggly. You can go around things. But no matter what you try, you can't connect each 3 utility to each house without crossing lines. But you can do that on a torus because you've got the wraparound vertically and the wraparound horizontally that you can use. And because a mug is a donut topologically, you can do it on a mug.
The solution is there.
The solution is on the mug, but you have to use the handle. Because the handle is the completion of the torus, not the impression of the mug, not the actual place where you put the tea or coffee, depending on your preference. That's just a dimple, really.
Right.
But if you imagine it made out of clay, and you can, and the only rule is you keep where the holes are, which is the only real rule in surface topology, then you can arrange it in a way where you will draw what you need to draw on the mug. And it's brilliant that they put it on a mug, because the torus is the shape where it's possible. And I don't know, I love it. If you draw out and over the handle, and then one goes through the handle,
right?
You can do it.
I think it's cooler with a mug than a more I don't know, you say classic torus.
Yeah,
because if you think of the dimple part, as you call it, like if you imagine drawing in there and you tried to use that to your advantage, you would see that you get no advantage from going in there, that it just represents the same flatness of the surface across there as if it were flat. There's no way you can try and outdo the squiggles inside that bit.
Yeah.
But like you say, with the handle, you can go one over the handle and one through. Yeah, and you'll see how you're like, oh yeah, I like cheated, I got through.
Yeah,
like, and
I just love it because they did this when they brought it out. They gave a bunch of YouTubers from like Number File, and they gave them whiteboard markers, and they got them because it's a white mug with the logo on it, and they had to try and do it. And I love that, if you gave it to them on a Taurus, they would be like, well, they'd give me this shape for a reason. They must have something to do with the shape. But I love the fact that the solution is kind of hidden on a mug, because it's just like, you don't think it's like, oh, they've just got it on a mug because like things go on mugs, and mugs are so cheap to sell as merchandise. Like you don't think twice about it. Oh yeah, it's just that mug that they sell. You don't look twice at someone who's sold a merch mug. So, but the fact that it is a mug is the answer. So I don't know. I always dug that.
What a great thing to be able to do if you could train yourself to maintain that level of looking at details in a problem. Yeah. Like when a problem's been set for you, I feel like something kind of goes off in your mind. It can go off in your mind where you're like, oh, okay, why is it like this though? Because maybe we assume that someone would set the simplest version of a problem to be solved. Or maybe you assume that someone's going to set you a really convoluted problem with things that don't matter, like red herrings, I suppose. Yes. But but when you're just trying to solve a problem in nature, well, like you're sort of saying, like how do you come up with some of these topological puzzles in the first place? Yeah. It's like, well, you've got to be able to look out for those details, I guess.
Yeah. Bonkers. You said red herring. I've got a funny. Have I told you the story about my sister, Erin? And so this is one of my. This is one of my proudest annoying older brother moments, and I'll shout out to my sister Erin. There was a great series of books. You remember The 11th Hour, don't you? The Graham Base book.
Yes, but
most famous book was probably like Animalia.
Yes, I remember Animalia.
Animalia, like the Graham Base was I'm sure he's still. I think he's only in his 50s or 60s now. But I'm pretty sure he was a British Australian author and illustrator. Amazing illustrator. His books. I would recommend these, especially The 11th Hour was my favorite, but the other huge, big, amazing ones are Animalia and Sign of the Seahorse.
Right.
They're just incredible books. We'll have to get. My list of books that I have to bring into the podcast are like actually increasing because Ben wants to see them. I think Ben was a 11th Hour fan as well. 11th Hour was my favorite. It was hugely important to me. His stories and his poetry are really fun and really well executed. The drawings are amazing and magical. And The 11th Hour was like a mystery book where it's like a kid's birthday party with all the animals, all the characters are animals. And there's somebody steals the birthday feast, and it's like a whodunit. Great, it's cool. Like a Miss Marple or a Poirot mystery about who. And there are clues on every page, and there are codes, and it's super cool. But there's one, without giving anything away, there's a code that you break at one point that says that something is a red herring. And I was doing it with Erin when she was still very young. And she says, it's a red herring. What's a red herring? And I said, oh, well, you're going to have to look it up. And she's like, oh, can't you just tell me? I'm like, no, it'll be more fun if you look it up. She couldn't find it in the dictionary or whatever. And we had this is back when we had like the Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Sure, yep.
And I made her look through the index and everything, and I still remember the look on her face when she said red herring, a misguided an adventure or a task that had been set that's sending you down a wild goose chase or a path. And she was. To this day, she is furious with me, and I'm so proud of myself that I sent her on a red herring to find the definition of red herring. And that's love you, Erin.
That's so you, Brandon.
Yeah. Oh man. I was very proud of that one. Yeah. Great book. Recommend it to
I'm
everybody.
gonna
I
check
went
it
and
out.
bought myself a copy. I started doing it with Nora, and we read through it, and now we got to start breaking the codes and stuff. It's,
Oh, cool. I had no idea it was. 'Cause
Oh man, and there's stuff to find on every page. It's like his signature is on every page. There's the alphabet is on every page, and it's just so good.
beautifully detailed.
Yeah, absolutely. And the little clues and hints onto who done it, and then there's a sealed section at the back of the book that you don't open until you've had
Oh,
a
that's
crack at
cool.
solving it yourself. Yeah, The 11th Hour by Graham Base. Yeah, it's the stuff.
Might get another cup of tea.
Another cup of tea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've
I might pause it. Shall I pause it?
Yeah.
I will pause it, Ben, and then we will return. Editor Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ben. And we're back. The magic of turning something off and on again.
Yep. And Matt, well, I've got another cup of tea.
Another cup of tea.
How about that?
Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that.
That's it. Magic trick.
There's a little magic trick there. An empty cup, now full of delicious tea. A cup that is the topological equivalent of a torus. And a couple more torus facts.
Yeah,
that
please.
I've got.
Please.
So soccer balls are truncated icosahedrons.
Truncated icosahedrons. Okay. what
That's
does that
the
mean?
shape of the classic soccer ball,
Yeah.
which is if you get an icosahedron, which is one of the platonic solids where all vertices and sides and surfaces are identical.
Okay.
I think there are 8 of them. There's the tetrahedron, the cube, the octahedron, the dodecahedron, and the icosahedron. Or maybe there's only 5. If they've missed any, forgive me. But then beyond that, they can't be made. Then you've got the Archimedean things where all vertices are the same, but not all sides and not all surfaces are the same. But
right, because you can have a solid shape that is made up of different kind of faces.
Yeah,
like,
different
some
faces, but
triangles, some other things.
but the vertices all match.
Gotcha.
But you need to rotate them and translate them. But yeah, the platonic solids all I'm pretty sure all surfaces, edges, and vertices. But if you get an icosahedron, which is a 20-sided shape, which is like your D20, for your D&D fans out there, 20-sided triangular equilateral triangles. I imagine, yeah, it would have to be if they're all identical.
Yeah, right.
And you truncate it, so you shave the corners off. I think on an icosahedron, there are 5 triangles meeting at a point. So if you shave that, you get a pentagon where you've made that shave, that truncation, and then the remaining shapes are all hexagons.
Right. Yeah.
So you get a shape that has, I can't remember the amounts, but a certain amount of hexagons and a certain amount of, well, there would be 20 remaining hexagons because each surface, you'd think. Yeah. But that's what you get when you get that arrangement of hexagons and pentagons that generate the traditional soccer ball shape.
Right. I'm impressed you could just figure out some of that on the fly when you're thinking about like logicking how many.
Yeah. I think just because I just love the platonic solids, and I've thought about that a lot, and I watched a lot of Matt Parker videos. But
and the pentagons would be like, say, the black colored ones.
Correct.
Traditionally,
Yeah.
on
I
the
think
ball.
so. I think so. I think that's right. Yeah. Or is it the other way around? I can't remember. But they're great. But I think you might be right. But the reason they do that is because hexagons, though bestagons they may be, you cannot tile a sphere with hexagons. Like, it just doesn't work.
Tile a sphere. So what does that mean?
You can't have hexagons of any sort of like skew that can patch together and tessellate around a spherical surface.
Okay,
and
so if I
match
started
up
with a sphere, say like a balloon, but imagine it was totally spherical.
Yep.
And then, if I was sticking
hexagons on
so
there.
they've just got to like touch
Yeah.
the point.
I
and
think
then
you're
then they
even
all touch
allowed
each
to
other.
stretch the hexagons, but if
Oh,
you
okay.
want to match edge to edge,
Yeah.
you will not be able to do it
Okay.
because the maths doesn't work.
I'm thinking like two, like one will come off of the sphere.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm very
Yes,
the physical
for sure.
thinking.
Absolutely, yeah. You wouldn't be able to, like, the moment you start trying to curve them around, you won't match up at the end nicely or neatly. One would stick off, or one would get squished into a shape that's not a hexagon.
Be a Frankenball.
Frankenball. But you can on a torus, so you can tile a torus with hexagons.
Interesting.
Because they will go around and match up with each other, and then if you did them in a cylinder, and then bent that cylinder around to match itself, you can perfectly tile a torus with hexagons.
Right. When you're thinking about that, does that help to think about unwinding, or I don't know what the word is, a torus like a cylinder, and you think about doing
making like a
into
net
infinity
of it.
And then imagine it could be finite. At a point. Okay. Yeah.
And the other one that I had, what was the other fun? Maybe it wasn't a
maybe it wasn't fun one. You can give boring torus facts. That's fine.
No, maybe it wasn't a torus one. Maybe it was a cylinder one. There was something about a knight's move where you couldn't have a knight visit every. Or can you have a knight? There's one thing you can't do unless it's on a cylindrical, unless it matches up on something. Oh no, I'm misremembering.
Mentioning the knight's move just makes me shout out to Cracking the Cryptic.
Yes,
another,
a knight's move.
Just thinking like, can't do that by Sudoku. And,
by knight's move.
Fantastic videos.
Yeah. I can't believe it. I love that guy. Yeah. No, excellent. No, I said I had multiple torus facts, but I had only one extra torus fact, and then another one that was only half remembered and wasn't even a torus. It was a cylinder. So there you go.
Should we watch another clip then?
Shall we? One more
more.
for giggles.
Let's see what we got.
What do we got here? Once again, the problem of, we should have Ben for that one. We should have Ben for that one.
Yeah, exactly. They're all so tantalizing. All right, how about I pick this one?
Oh, paper mache puppet heads.
This is a Rob one.
What is Rob up to?
See, just mute that ad.
Oh, that looks tasty though.
Yeah,
I won't give away of the name of the fast food chain. But,
fantastic.
Well, there are lots of ways of making puppet heads, but this is the papier mache way, or one of them, based on an orange. Now, at the outset, get an adult
excellent
help,
intro.
not because it's hard, but because you use a hot oven and a sharp safety knife. And they can just give you a bit of help where it's needed. What I'm doing, I've got an orange and I've got some glue. And the glue I use is this stuff. You buy it as wallpaper paste. It comes in sort of white granules. You can see them tipping out there. And when you mix it with water, it comes out like this. A wonderful, thick, clear, gluey splodge like that. And that's great for paper mache because it doesn't smell. It's not like a flour glue, which mice can come along and eat. It doesn't go bad, and it sets very hard indeed.
Okay.
A flour glue.
Let's pause there for a second. Great intro.
Yes.
We're with Rob. We've gone back in time a little bit.
Yeah.
The flared
we have
collar.
Indeed. Is he in that? How much of that kitchen is there and how much isn't?
Oh, you're saying...
I think he's on a green screen.
Yeah, okay.
And that kitchen is from another time as well. Great elevated microwave oven part and the sink. I think he's just at a bench on a green screen, and then he's got a kitchen green screen behind him. Oh, it would have been probably blue screen in those days.
Oh, right, yeah. I remember growing up learning blue screen.
Yeah.
And then it changed.
Yeah, and then it changed.
Like,
In fact, they were using blue screen right up until like The Matrix, weren't they? Or was Matrix one of the first behind the scenes that I saw that was green? And I was just like, why is it green now? Yeah, just better with the chroma key for green, I guess.
I must say, if this is a blue screen, they've definitely matched the color.
They have done well.
It looks pretty seamless from
They
this.
were on the cutting
frame.
edge, these guys.
Oh, they were.
They were.
And they're cutting edges of this orange, which actually just after you were saying about tiling a sphere, it kind of looks
Here
like what
he
he's doing
is.
here with some.
Yeah. He wouldn't be able to do this with hexagons of newspaper. No.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to do it.
He would know that as well.
He would know that.
I've got to admit, I've never done paper mache before.
Never done
I feel
paper
like it was
mache?
one of those activities that everyone did at school,
Sure.
and I just
You were
never
sick that
did it.
day.
I guess
Yeah.
so.
No, I did do it. I did make some masks and things, and you'd put it around a balloon, and then you pop the balloon or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, good times.
Because that's what he's got. He's got like a sphere of something, and then he's or that's an orange. That is an orange.
It is an orange.
Yeah.
Neil Buchanan from Art Attack, he would always talk about the glue that he used. He'd always say, just PVA glue, just your ordinary school glue. Ordinary school glue. PVA glue.
Love that school glue.
Yeah, it's school glue.
Does that make
He
you
had
feel
some
bad?
great. He had some great turns of phrase. Neil Buchanan. He was like contact was like book contact was always
yep.
sticky back plastic. Just use some sticky back plastic
That's a fun.
and
phrase to say.
loo roll. Whenever he was talking about toilet paper, it's just loo
Yeah.
roll.
Yeah.
And PVA glue, just your ordinary school glue.
Makes it so approachable.
Yeah.
Okay, so
He's not using your ordinary school glue. He's
No.
using this granulated stuff. That it's not a flour-based glue.
which is just
which I
blobbed
didn't
onto a
know.
little saucer.
Maybe he could teach Neil Buchanan a thing or three about
Deane.
what glue to use for what situation. Sorry. Go on,
That's
Rob.
one thing I need. The orange is another, and the last is little bits of newspaper, about the size of a postage stamp, up to twice the size of a postage stamp, like that on my finger. And I smear the glue on the orange, stick the paper on, and then smear the glue over the top. And I keep doing that, pressing the wet newspaper down and overlapping piece on piece to build up this thick layer of gluey newspaper all over the orange. Not just one layer, but about 10 layers thick.
Whoa.
It gets a bit boring, but you're going to get a great puppet at the end of it. Well, I've done that, and
Give
you
you
can
motivation
see over this side
while
of the
you're
orange
working.
what it will look like
Yep.
when the thing is finished. 10 layers thick. At that stage, shove it in the oven for quite a while.
Shove it.
And when you've done that, it cooks away and, of course, gets hot. The outside dries, the inside gets hot and shrinks. So in the end, you get this thing coming out. A dry bit of papier mache, very hard and crisp, but inside the orange, which is shrunk in the heat. You can hear it rattling around there. Now I have to liberate that orange. So this is where the
Liberate.
safety
I love you, Rob.
a cut around the equator of that ball. Here we go. Shove it in there, and
Oh,
be
this
very
looks
careful with
dangerous.
your fingers,
Yeah.
but work your way around the ball like this.
There's
It
definitely
cuts
grown
quite
up stuff.
cleanly.
That's a sharp
It's
knife.
Good, hard stuff. And you cut almost all the way around, but you leave a little hinge at the back. This is why.
Okay.
It opens like an oyster.
So
out
talk
comes
about
the
Pac-Man.
Yeah.
That is absolutely no good to anyone. Don't try and eat it. Throw it away.
He actually does
literally threw it. Don't. That's no good to anyone.
Close it up again. The hinge helps you align it. And again, get glue, smear it round the crack,
Okay, so he's
and put
reclosing
on
it.
extra bits
Right.
of paper.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And that will seal the whole
Patch it
thing
right
off
up.
again to leave you with a hollow ball of papier mache. And that seam ought to be, I suppose, about 3 or 4 pieces of paper thick at least. Otherwise, the puppet won't be very strong for the things that you have to do later. But keep on going, cover the seam over, and when it's finished, shove it back in the oven and let it dry.
Okay. Oh, he's done. You paused that at a great moment, Tom, because he is actually showing you like time passing and what you do when it's out of the oven. And there was an excellent sort of like clock wipe
Yeah.
of transition. And you've paused it mid wipe. Well done, sir.
Where there's no blackout in there, so it's just scene to scene.
It's
So you've
Rob
got-
on top of Rob.
Yeah, and slightly askew, so his head is
Yeah.
off to his
That is
shoulder.
an effect they would have used for something and they would have shown you how that. Yeah.
Some fantastic words in there. You've mentioned before, Brendan,
I
how
love his turns of phrase. I just love
liberating
we
the
got to
orange.
liberate that orange from its paper mache shell. Ah,
And then he had his not box cutter, but sort of
yeah.
sort of Stanley knife
Stanley
looking
knife
thing.
kinda, yeah.
And he knows that he looks like he knows what he's doing with it, but
And he
made
did.
me cringe a little bit.
Yeah. He did duly warn people that
He did.
you got to be careful with this bit.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then liberated the orange and said,
Liberated
that's no good to anyone.
Don't try to eat it. Throw it away.
And he literally threw it over the front of the table, not
he
up to the side.
carelessly. It looked like Like, I found it funny, but it looked like he wasn't making a joke. He was just like almost offended the suggestion of someone ever finding any use for this orange.
Yeah, that's no
See
good
you
to
later.
anyone. Brilliant. All right, should we continue? This is actually a long video
Oh,
because I guess we got to get through the whole puppet.
yeah.
This is just one part of the puppet.
One part of the
All right,
puppet.
let's continue.
While that puppet head's drying in the oven, I've cut out of a cereal packet that sort of size of cardboard.
About
Roll
credit
it
card
around
size.
and make
plus-
sure it just fits your forefinger, and you've got a tube. And in this case, use a much stronger glue to glue it. When you do, and let it dry, that's what you end up with. A nice, hard cardboard tube. And that's going to be the neck,
Little finger
which
trap
we put
looking
into the
thing.
puppet head in this way. Puppet head straight from the oven. Nice, crisp ball, hollow this time, no orange inside it. And you mark on its surface a 6-pointed cross. 1,
Ooh.
2, 3, about the size of your forefinger.
Okay, sort of-
Once again, be
Ah,
very
right.
careful. Use
3
the safety
intersecting
knife to
lines,
cut along those
6-pointed
lines,
cross.
and that's going to be where the neck goes.
Cruciform key.
You notice the thing is crisp enough to allow you to cut it without distorting the whole ball. If it does distort, it isn't thick enough. Well, you work along 1, 2, and finally the third one,
Cutting
and
an
bend those
asterisk
petals of the
in the
star
old-
or the flower outwards.
Ah,
They'll look
right.
like that if you do, and it should be just the right size to let you put the cardboard tube in. You can see there, that's going to be a very fine neck nestling inside the head.
Ah,
But you have
just
to fix
pop
it.
the
And you do that
tube
by using strips
inside
of
the
newspaper,
ball to make a
Lots of
little
glue again. Smear the whole neck,
neck
with glue
for the
first,
head. I see.
and then with gluey strips of newspaper, which I'll do with a finger, wrap them around and around and around, tying the whole thing onto the head. Here we go. Here's a long one.
Just going to pause this and say, I'm guessing that for you, Brendan, and all listeners at home, there's a very straightforward video. Like, oh, I did this in primary school. But
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, wrapped. This is the lesson I never got.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hanging on this every word.
Oh, man, paper mache is fun. And I do love the craft element of this show as
Yeah.
well. It was just like activities to do. Just there was something for everybody on the
It really
Curiosity
was.
show.
Now tell me, were you a paper mache or papier mache?
I was always paper mache, but I do enjoy Rob's little papier mache.
Yeah.
Little wink to, he was always big on pronunciation.
I think I would always just mumble it because I didn't go to that class. So I was like, you guys, did you?
the papier mache. Like potpourri was another one.
Oh, yeah.
Potpourri. The nice smelling stuff.
All right, so we've got the head, we've got the neck.
We got the head, we got the neck. We're gluing strips of paper around the neck head join now,
Yes.
I believe, to fortify the.
Did
So
I
it's-
catch? He said a fun neck, as in, is there going to be
Ooh.
some sort of movement to it? Maybe I misheard that.
yeah, I think he's making like a stick puppet thing that has clothes around it, so you kind of like. I think it would have a French name, this style of puppet.
Oh, sure, yeah. I think I
Um,
can picture what you're
Yeah. So right now
Got
he's
some
making a thing
bounce.
that's going to end up looking like a big doorknob. I think
let's continue.
he might even use that if memory
It's
serves
a
me.
very sticky process, this, so you need to use a lot of newspaper on the table. There we are. We started off there, sticking it to the head, around the neck several times, and back onto the head.
I see.
And don't be frightened to use lots and lots and lots of glue.
Yeah.
And lots and lots and lots of paper.
Good advice.
Around and around and around, and back onto the head.
This is not his first
And if
puppet.
you do that, and once again, you dry it in the oven, it'll come out in that form. You can see there the basic head with the neck, which of course is specially sized to your finger, ready to nod
I see.
and do whatever puppets do. Now you start building the features, and I think that's done very well with bits of ordinary tissue soaked in that glue really strongly until it comes out rather like plasticine. And once again, stick them on the outside of this and start
It
molding.
almost looks like
Oh.
wet
I'm
cotton
gonna
wool,
rush
this
because I want
it
part,
natural,
because he's not
but
using
there's the
newspaper
beginning of a
anymore. He's
nose.
using the tissue.
That might be the
So he's
beginning
like
of an eyebrow.
slapping on.
Yeah, and it's almost like
And
having
we
bits
might
of
put a
clay.
Yeah,
great
yeah.
down there is the beginning of a chin. Ears, all sorts of things. The great thing to remember is that they won't stick on awfully well like that. To finish off, you need to get ordinary bits of tissue, like a skin, stick them over, and then smear with the glue to bind the whole thing together.
Right.
That will give a nice white finish, and it'll stop those bits and pieces falling
Oh,
off.
for the
Don't be
clumps,
scared to use
you-
quite a bit of that. It's very thin. It's very
Yeah.
absorbent.
The clumps that
And
made the
more you can
mass
do,
of the facial
better sort of
features were just
smooth finish
the
you'll have
clumpy stuff.
on
But
your
now
puppet.
he's
just make sure that all
fixing
those
them
bits and
down with
pieces
the
are molded
sheets of
properly
tissue.
underneath. When you've done that, back it goes into the oven.
Oh, another
wipe.
another
And the
clock
puppet
wipe.
head comes out of the oven for the last time. You can see what a good job the baking's done. Although it's only glue and tissue, it's as hard as a rock. Because it's been
Love these
baked well.
test taps
In fact,
every
it's been
time.
overbaked.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're coming
Unburnt
through on
slightly.
the-
Never mind.
They're very
We'll paint it,
Punch and
that'll all be
Judy
covered up.
looking
It's got nose,
facial features,
eyebrows,
very extreme,
ears, the works. The last
almost
thing you have to do
grotesque
is to take
features,
some sticky tape like this
but in a fun
and
way.
get a thin streamer and wrap it round the bottom of the neck. Probably 1 meter is what you'll need because it goes over and over itself to make a ridge there which stops the clothes from falling off once you've closed it. Or, of course, you can finish it with felt pens or paints, cotton wool hair, cardboard hats, anything you like, and make the puppets you need. You might recognize one half of the dynamic duo.
Oh.
There's Robin.
Oh, yeah.
He's his offsider, Batman.
Hey.
In fact, with this technique, papier mache, there's absolutely no limit to the puppets you can make, including the entire cast of the Punch and Judy show.
Oh, he Punch and Judy. He's gone. Oh, and now he's got Punch and Judy.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you were right on the head with that.
Yeah.
They're just dancing around now.
Yep, they are. A very sooty and sweep, really.
Now, a couple of these, you can see that there's
He's got
arms,
like arms,
yeah.
so I reckon he's doing a little thing where his thumb and his pinky make the arms, and then he's pointed his finger up into the head to make the little old. Very very sooty and sweep. Is that a reference you? Oh, the Sooty
Only
and Sweep
through-
show, Sooty
yeah.
and Friends. That was a big British children's show with Matthew Corbin. Did I make that name up? I might have.
I think even by the name, I could have guessed that was sort of an old British
Yeah,
show.
but Dave. What was his name? David. Oh, I'm blanking on the name of the fella who took over the Sooty show from his dad, and they were like
right.
much loved figures. I think we've lost them both now, but the Sooty and Sweep show was big, and it was that kind of almost sock puppet.
Yeah.
But a little pinky and thumb for your hands, and then a head on your fingers, just kind of like moving around, and that sort of puppet very much. And Punch and Judy is another reference that's
Yes.
probably falling out of popularity. But the old Punch and Judy show, the little the puppet booth that you'd see at medieval fairs.
Which I think of as
Wow.
slapstick
Yes,
puppetry, I guess.
man, Punch and Judy, that would be an ancient set of characters, because I think they might even be medieval characters, Punch and Judy.
Do they have any? I honestly have no
fancy.
idea. Are they based on the sort of the commedia dell'arte sort of
Ooh. I don't know,
Arlecchino,
but
like
I
some
love
of those
it.
characters?
Whoa,
I don't know
I don't know.
how
I-
connected they all are, but
I'm not familiar with those terms, but I'm keen to learn.
I could be way off here, but commedia dell'arte, or probably also butchering saying that, I believe was like an Italian, or
Yeah,
I'm not sure how
right.
far back we go into, exactly where in Italy, or, what
Mm.
the accurate place is, but Arlecchino, which I think that character, like Harlequin, Harlequin, like it's the same root, and it was the same, like their archetypal sort of characters of the sad clown, and then there's a whole bunch of characters in this story that have sort of evolved and led to other characters over time. But so I'm not sure whether Punch and Judy have anything to do with them or not. But
Right. Well,
what
I
have you
might
found
have
there.
just the old plaque at St Paul's in Covent Garden, London, commemorating the first recorded performance of Punch and Judy in 1662.
Wow, 1662.
Hot dog. Punch and Judy show, labelled an English entertainment icon by the London Museum, has its roots in the 17th century Italian commedia dell'arte.
There you go. Yeah,
So what you were saying, well, there you flip and go, eh?
Which, I just think whenever I've seen it there's a lot of art based around those characters as well, I think. And I think of those characters as being very larger than life.
Yeah.
It's very overly dramatic. And that sort of, I think with Punch and Judy, a lot of like, hitting of each other and things like that. And
which kids find hilarious.
Right,
Still.
right, and that sort of slapstick that I feel like hand puppet, especially with that sort of, you're doing a rock on.
You
or,
have to
like
move
sort of,
the entire body to able to
sort of
swing.
things.
Yeah.
It lends itself to it.
Yeah, the rock on symbol is a good the old throwing up the horns is probably
Or
a good
the I love you
sign language.
symbol. Yep.
Yeah, to get the right shape in your hand to be able to do those puppets. But He's a crafty guy, that Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got a Deane and a Rob.
Yeah,
there.
we did. Well done. Well
That's
done.
good. Oh, Ben, you can let us know how we did.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'd be keen to know what Ben has to say about our video selections, because usually he's the man.
Yeah, and listeners too. Give us feedback. Feel free to reach out. We're loving hearing all your thoughts and all your love. And thanks again to Josh.
Oh man, Josh
last week. We got some
I've
great
been thinking about
feedback
that all week.
Yeah.
What a awesome dude.
Yeah.
Like so
guy.
generous with his story and his answers. Yeah.
And anyone else, if there's any topic you like us to cover or that you've got an interest in and want to have a chat, reach out.
100%. Please do. The places to find us would be all in the show notes, I'm sure. But Ben's really excellent at that as well. And so, I miss the guy.
Yeah. And I reckon we'll have him back next week.
Well, let's
whenever
do
we can
it.
next record.
I hope Deane, Rob, and Ben are with us next time.
Try it on your friends.
Yeah.
I want to know